Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming back for the study section. Can we hear me? Can we all hear me, please? Can you respond? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right, so today we'll be talking about data set building, curation, and annotation. It's just like um, a short walk. So I try to do my best to beat down every technical or technicalities you may encounter concerning NLP. So it's more like I'm not watering the content, I'm trying to demystify it so that we linguists can understand and relate well with it and not just the typical computer scientist jargons. Right, so today I'll be talking about data set building, curation, and annotation. And then why am I taking this? The primary contribution of linguists in NLP as a computational linguist is working with the data because the pipeline of NLP work from input, computation, and output. So the input is where linguists are found. We work on the input that we give to the computational system. Then the engineers work on the computational system to get a desired output. But there is a communication back and forth between the linguist and the computational system so that you create something readily available for computer to use. And then what you create for computer to be readily to be used by what you create readily available for computer to use is the data set. So what is data? Let's dive into it. I hope you love this. All right. What is data? Data is any form of inputs given to a machine. Data is language. It could be words. So you can have oko. This is from Yoruba, by the way. You can have epo, farm, and palm oil. It could be phrased the way forward. Reality could hit anyone. It could be sentences. I know Samuel. I know Samuel. I live in the world. So basically, when somebody said we are dealing with data, it simply means you are dealing with language. Data is language. So whatever aspect you can think of, words, phrases, morpheme, whatever thing you can think about, that is what machine works on. So machine works on data, and that is what they take as input, and that input is what the computational system works on to give a desired output, depending on what we are working on. So depending on what we are working on. All right. So just don't forget to ask me question and on the line. Of course, I'll be section for question. So now, because we have data set can be, and then, I mean, the size of the data set for machines, because we want machines to learn, data set can be millions of sentences, can be billions of sentences. It's a corpora. It's not just the kind of thing you found when you are dealing with phonology. Let's say you are trying to find the underlying form of a particular form in a language. That's not the kind of data you do with machine because imagine the number of data we have to learn a language. It's more like you are teaching the machine a language. So the machine relies on heavy data. And then it is not so clear even to date to what extent or what size of data set do we need to learn a language. For example, can you tell me the number of data a child needs to learn or to receive before having a proficiency of the language is acquiring? Just like poverty of stimulus given by Chomsky, where the data set that the data we are exposed to is impoverished enough, but so powerful to give us the knowledge of the language that we need. But machine is not like that. Machine needs to be given an input. Machine cannot separate itself. So we need a lot of data. And not just anyhow data, a balanced data. We'll talk about balance and representativeness in corpus linguistics. But for this class, we are looking at parts of data set. So look at part of data set. Because the data set is big, can we have a part? So we have tokens and types. There are two basic types. Uh, I'm not saying types of data set, I'm talking about parts of data set. The parts of data set is not types of data sets. Okay, so we have the tokens and the types. What are the tokens? The tokens are the words in the data set, basically words in the data set. If you have, suppose we have these three sentences, Samuel is here, Samuel sings, Samuel is jumping. It simply means you have three sentences in your data set, and then we are going to count the tokens. So the tokens will be Samuel 1 is, 2 here, 3, Samuel 4 sings, 5, Samuel 6 is, 7, jumping, 8. So we have 8 tokens in these examples. Now, types. Types are every unique word in your data set. Every unique word in your data set. That is the types of the data set. So if you look at it very well, if you want to count Samuel as a type, you're not be counting Samuel once. You're not be counting is once, even though they appear more than once in this data set. If you look at Samuel will be 1, is will be 2, here will be 3, sings will be 4, jumping will be 5. So you have 5 types. So what are the importance of tokens and types? Remember that when we are learning vocabulary of a language, when you want to learn, you learn a new word. When you want to learn, or basically you learn a new thing. For example, you don't know if you don't know the meaning of the word frolicking or the word sporty. Oh, I am sporty. You would have to know. So basically, learning of the model occur when it is learning types. But learning of the tokens is used to strengthen the types, because the machine works more like embeddings, more like repetition, more like statistics, more like, okay, anyway, I see Samuel, Samuel, Samuel. If I see 50 million Samuel, of course, I have learned the Samuel. And it is actually proven wrong, right. If you remember in the first lecture, we talked about connectionism and constructivism. And connectionism is talking about a neural connection in the synapse that brings about our experience. So the more you use something, the more you remember, right? Some of that it will be neuroplasticity of the brain. Your brain will be used to it. You don't have to create new connections to remember those stuff because they are permanent in your head. That is what tokens does. Now, when you are creating new connection in your brain is when you are learning types. So the machine will learn the types and it will use tokens to reinforce what is learning. The machine will learn the types and use, so if it's learning new data sets, it has to learn repeatedly. So you will need tokens. But when you are building on what you have taught, then you need types. You don't need any more of tokens. So dataset building. How do you build dataset? Building dataset starts with data acquisition and collection. So you can be doing two things. You can be acquiring a dataset or you can be collecting the dataset. When you are acquiring a dataset, you are using available dataset. When you are collecting a dataset, you are building from the cradle, like you are building from the beginning. There is nothing on it on net. We are trying to build it from the scratch. So if you are doing availability, so you can use Kaggle, you can use GitHub. There are different platforms for free data that you can download. Different tasks could require such things. We will see as we go. Now, data acquisition. Let's talk more on that. Okay, so data acquisition is the process of gathering open source data set. To do this, you will need to know the following. So you don't just go to the web to collect and take anyhow data set. You have to choose a platform. So am I going to the GitHub or am I going to Kaggle? Then you have to read data statement. Data statement is very important. What is a data statement? A data statement is what specifies the founders of the data. Is it reusable? Do you have to take permission? Are you permitted to commercialize it? Um, uh, what are the things, what are the metadata behind the data you are downloading? You don't just go and download any data set, you must read more like the rules and regulations guiding how and why you should use a data set. Then you can download the data set. When you are downloading the data set, you should know the format of the data set. Is it a CSV file or a plain text? Is it a JSON file? So most of the time, raw data set comes in plain text or CSV file. And annotated data set comes in JSON files because it helps you to group your annotation together with a form, tag with a form. I don't know whether you are familiar with JSON file. Just ask me if you have further questions. So what kind of task we warrant you to use a data acquisition and not um, data collection? So suppose you are going to work on a machine translation project where there is, let's say, 1 million data sets, 1 million size of data set in a English language or in a high resource language. You can decide to take, download the English dataset, and then translate to the target language, let's say English, let's say Yoruba or Hausa, and then you would have millions of sentences to in the target language. You have acquired a dataset. That is so simple. So what is data collection? This is the process of eliciting dataset. It is most likely used to either balance existing dataset or build domain-specific dataset. So suppose you want to build a dataset. Most of the dataset that we have that are common, especially for low resource languages. I think I have explained what low resource and high resource languages are in I think the second unit or the first week of this study class. For low resource languages, you tend to have uh, data sets basically from the news because that is where the people find data sets. And because they are from the news, they tend not to represent the speakers of the language because the way you write a newsletter is not the way you write a colloquial speech or the way you speak day to day in a day-to-day setting. So because of that, you may want to collect domain-specific dataset to enrich what is on ground. So that way, you are collecting a dataset using linguistic procedures or natural language processing procedures. Using linguistic procedures, what do? The primary aim of linguistics is to devise scientifically how to study language or know what native speakers know about their language. This is done using data. To collect data, they use one of the following. You can use the word list. So there is Summer Institute of Linguistics ESAHED African Comparative Word List. There is Ibadan word list. There is there are different. There is Swadesh word list. A lot of word lists. So how do you use this? Because the word lists are always specified. Like for the Ibadan word list, it's just 400 word list. For the SI word list, it's just like 1,700 word list. It may not be enough for you to build a data set, should be running into millions of sentences. All right. So how do you approach this? You approach this by first doing part of speech. So you collect words based on their power of speech. I'm going to give you two examples, and then if you have questions, I'm going to explain other ones. Suppose you are collecting the word head. It is a noun, right? So if you're collecting the word head, you will not ask yourself, after I collect the word head, what other grammatical information do head show? So the first rule is collect every word in context. So when you're collecting every word in context, you are trying to expand it. So if you look at nouns show gender, right? So you can have he head, she head, for example. You can have diminutive, small head, big head. You can have numbers, head, heads. So when you collect those paradigms or those forms, then you now begin to use them in context. So my head is big, your head is big, our heads are big, I have small head, I have big head, our head is head. Just for head alone. Now for verbs. Verbs show tenses. Verbs show tenses, time of action. It is very important. Now, to collect verbs, you collect first. The rule for verb is collect the imperative forms first. So suppose you want to collect it in, in a language, you collect it as a command, like you command someone, eat. You are most likely going to be given the form that is not inflected. And then after that, you're gonna now use it in context against the time. But when you are using it against the time, it is always tricky because you don't know whether they have past tense or whether they are present tense or whether they are, especially if you are dealing with a language you're not familiar with. And even the language you are familiar with, you know them, but you don't know they are there because you're not aware of the grammar of the language, really. So you are going to use some stimuli, words. So you can use tomorrow for future, you can use yesterday for past, and you can use now or today for present. So someone eats now, someone eats yesterday, someone eats tomorrow. So in creating this kind of process, you don't have to be concerned about grammaticality because your consultant or the person eliciting data from you may not actually understand English. So you don't have to worry. So someone eats now, someone eats yesterday, someone eats. So that form of eat, you begin to see that the person begins to give you the present, the past, and the future. So with that, you can now begin to figure out other things. So for each verb, you collect the imperative form, and then you collect them in sentence against the tense aspect or the time of action. Now, paradigms. Now, it appears that sometimes when we are collecting data sets, paradigms, word list may not be enough, so you have to collect paradigms. So if you are, it's useful mostly when you are collecting, when you're analyzing your data and you discover that your data is, some things are not clear. Maybe you don't know the pronouns because you see pronouns can be very, very tricky. So let's say I am Samuel, you are Samuel. Forget I put John there. In that case, you discover that the person is can be giving you I for you and you for I. So if I tell the consultant I am Samuel, the person might give you are Samuel, and then you are, and the person might give you I. So it can be a bit tricky. You really have to figure out by experience what best way to elicit such data. So you create paradigm as a list of sentences, and then they are meant to be as much as possible. Now there is something, a concept, I think I didn't put it here. It is called data augmentation. Now, data augmentation is a process of collecting data by multiplying what you have. So how do you do that? Suppose I have my paradigm created. I am Samuel, I am John. I can pick that and I can use my Excel, put it in Excel, then replace every Samuel with, say, chair. I am chair. Or you are with any word. Say replace with stupid. So anywhere you see you are, replace with stupid. You can use your regex. I don't know that we are familiar with regex. You can whatever whatever you can do. So to augment the data set. Another thing you can do is to use synonyms. So you can find every word and find synonyms for them, then replace them with a synonymous word. Of course, you have to cross-check your data and make sure everything is fine. This process is very useful when you're dealing with synthetic data or you're dealing with machine translation data sets. So, linguistic procedure continues. It is important to not just create general data sets, but domain-specific data sets using, now, remember I talked about domain-specific data sets to take care of the general data set that is on, to augment the data set that is already existing, maybe the news data set. Now, you can do that by using thematic collection. So if you are dealing with a consultant or a language consultant, you can tell the person to tell you you can collect data sets on health. So you can look at what are the health terminologies that we have, what are educational terminologies, then collect them from English to the language. Then make sure you are collecting them using paradigm and in context. That way you have a domain specific data set. You can use storyboard. What is a storyboard? A storyboard is like you have a picture and then you ask the people to talk about the picture. I'm going to talk more on this on linguistics or on natural language processing procedure. Now, you can tell people to tell you about fructase and fructose. These are rich data sets that will most likely have types, more types than tokens that you see out there. Remember tokens and types. Narratives, you can talk about different rights in the culture, maybe burial rights, maybe marriage rights, maybe naming ceremony, whatever you want to talk about. Also, you can ask about how to make dishes. What kind of food item do you have? How do you make such? Like that. You are building a data set. So you can combine the word list paradigm together with these procedures I just explained. All right. So all the processes that we explained earlier are just using linguistics procedures. So using natural language processing procedures now. So since the goal is to get language data, so remember that linguistic data set collection is always almost systematic because we are not just map, we are not just acquiring data sets, we are systematically collecting data sets to unravel the mystery of the knowledge system of a group of people. Even though that is what NLP practitioners are trying to do, it is not always explicit. It is as if they give the machine to learn what they are doing. So it is not so demanding and systematic as linguistics. They could now, these are two procedures. They could ask people to write stories using different topics, that's the thematics, translate the stories and record them using Audacity. So you can get like say 30 people, you give them, can you tell us, can you write a story about the best food, best places you visited in the world? I mean, any topic. And then they translate them from the language to another language. Maybe you're building a machine translation system. Then they record using Audacity. So you can record using Audacity depending on how you want it. So now you can ask people to snap pictures. So another procedure is that, okay, first you gather images. Gather images. So you can select 50 people, snap different pictures from different areas, different points, different angle, different pictures. This will serve as storyboard. Remember we talked about storyboard. Why you let people give different expressions of the same set of image, thereby building the data set. So you can have, you upload the images on a platform. On that platform, you can now ask people, okay, what do you see? The boy is running. What do you see? The man is laughing. What do you see? Stuff like that. And then you're building the data set. I actually have an idea about building the data set in this manner using generative AI, but it is out of the scope of this work. Maybe later on, I'm building a technology for that. It's really demanding. I pray I finish it soonest. But that is that about natural language processing. So what is data set annotation? This is the process of labeling data for machine processing. There are two approaches that will be discussed. These are linguistic data annotation and natural language processing annotation. So, linguistics annotation. Linguistic annotation is talking about this is the process of chunking data using linguistic properties. You can do text to speech annotation in Pratt, time allow annotation. You can do speech modeling and statistical analysis in Pratt using Pratt scripting. You can do video and audio text alignment annotation in ELAN. In fact, with ELAN, you can do multimodal data annotation. What is multimodal data annotation? This is a situation where you can map the other paralinguistic information when you're having a video with their text and embody language. You can do morphing by morphing annotation in Flex software, such as languages. You can use them in Bantu languages that are very rich in morphology. You can use that to build a data set. Natural language processing annotation. These include NLP tasks. The softwares I mentioned are free, and I'll be using them in our next class. Okay, so when you want to do an NLP task, you have to choose a platform, you will upload your data, and then you will prepare data annotation documents. So data annotation documents will contain the tags you want to use for the data, that's the labeling, you are labeling it. Let's say you are doing sentiment analysis, you can decide what is what, and then who is doing what, the quality assurance process, whatever process you're doing, everything will put in the Cohen-Kappa processing, the adjudication process precisely. This is all that will be contained in the document. So annotation is as follows. You can have part of speech tagging. So you have the data set that you have built, you want to annotate, you want to tag it. So why are annotation for NLP important? They are important because data sets, machines don't read words. Machine reads in numbers. I think I said this repeatedly in the first week. Now, because machine reads a number and there's a lot of data in the data, there are a lot of words in the data set, one of the way to classify or to cluster in a way, to classify a data set is to put them in part of speech. So technically you are reducing the effort of the machine and teaching machine to recognize words in data sets. You can do intent and entity annotation. This is very common for chatbot building. So the intent is the intention of the speaker. The entity are the embodies in the dataset. For example, if you are building an e-commerce dataset, and this is very, very rewarding monetarily. If you're building an e-commerce dataset, and then you see a dataset like cancel order, I am not buying again. The intent there is to cancel the order. The entity there, what? The order. The person is trying to order, and then maybe the bag, whatever things the person ordered, or the time. It's more like name entity recognition in the e-commerce dataset. Classification and clustering. You can classify by topics. So you can read a data and then tell us, okay, this data is about housing. This is about electricity. This is about education. This is about, so we are classifying them based on domain. So based on the proposition in the data set, you can do reinforcement annotation. And reinforcement annotation is basically that you are annotating data sets because a system has been built. Remember that we did something on reinforcement learning in the first week, where you either give the person thumbs up or you give the person thumbs down to show that right or wrong. So this is what you do in reinforcement annotation. They have built the system, they're asking you to test it. If the model gets it right, you put it thumbs up. If the model gets it wrong, you put it thumbs down. That is reinforcement annotation. There's another form of annotation that I didn't put here, and it is semantic annotation. Maybe we have to talk about it in our next class. Dataset curation. Now, dataset curation is making your data available for other people to use. So this is done through, you write the data statement. I think you remember what I explained about data statement. We funded it, it's the open source, blah, 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 whatever thing you want to put there. Choosing and writing metadata for the data set. So now you want to prepare a metadata for the data set. So who are the participants involved? Where was it recorded? When was it recorded? Why the project? Can you explain why the project was undergone? Stuff like that. These are what metadata. What are the tags in data set? So creation on an open source platform. So after you prepare metadata now with your data, you want to create data set. If you are doing linguistic data, you can use CMDI. I'm going to be showing us how we do this, I think, in the next class. Then if you are doing NLP dataset, you can use Cargo to create a data, you prepare GitHub. On GitHub, that is called README file. The metadata is the README file. There you see the explanation and a lot of things that you need to know about that. Thank you so very much. I hope you enjoy this short class, and then I will be happy to take our questions. Do we have questions? Questions? Yes. Somebody raised his or her hand. Can you talk, please? Can you unmute yourself? Somebody raised his or her hand. Can the person unmute his or herself? Okay, I can see people chatting. You cannot unmute. Oh, doctor. Sorry. Let me unmute you. Can you unmute now? Maybe you can just type, sir. You can type in the chat, because I don't know why it cannot unmute. So if the softwares are usable on the Mac, yes, I think. Yes, they are. I don't use Mac, but they are most likely good for. Thank you so much. Okay, do we have questions? Yeah, if you raise your hand, you can just unmute yourself and talk. Esther?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for the session, although it's getting a little technical. I would like to know the softwares you mentioned, Elan and what's the other one?
Curate?
Prat, yes. Will you put us through how to use them?
Yes, that's the practical section of next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Do we have other questions? Yes, sir. CMDI is still in use. I still use it last week. Okay, who wants to talk? Doreen?
Yes, I have a question. So I understand well. Today you told us what is possible to do with this software, and next week you will show how.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, I would share the link on the WhatsApp page. I don't know whether you're on the WhatsApp page, Dr. Gerard. I would share the link on the WhatsApp. Yes, it is still in use. I used it last week. Yes, we'll be doing the practical section. I have to break it down so that it doesn't get too complex. I mean, it's just bit by bit, step by step, one step at a time. Thank you. Do we have other questions?
Good evening. I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Sir, my question is, can you share maybe a YouTube link or a video to practice ahead of the next class? Just watch and have idea on the software.
We do have a repository that's like a Google Doc that has all the materials we're using. I'll be sharing links there. So I will share the link on the WhatsApp. So I don't know the person that is, I don't know if anybody can copy. If you're on the WhatsApp and you're on this call, please, I'm going to be sharing the link to the WhatsApp group on the WhatsApp. I'm not able to do that simultaneously because I'm recording this meeting. So if you're on the WhatsApp group, I've shared the link now. Just copy it and put it in the chat here. Thank you. So that people can join.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, you're welcome. So on the WhatsApp group, I'll be sharing the repositories and some other things. Do we have other questions? I think people are giving stuff in the chat. Okay, thank you so much for sharing the group link. Yeah, so Jonas, you can join. Thank you, Doctor. Grateful, thank you. Do we have other questions?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with. Okay, first of all, I appreciate your efforts in trying to impact knowledge teaching us so far. This is actually my first class, and it's because I've been quite occupied. So you were talking about Elan and then Pratt. I noticed that there are other linguists that are not even quite familiar with Elan and Pratt. Are there other tools that we can use if not Elan and Pratt?
Well, that's it depends on what you are doing. You know, if you are building a stack data set from linguistic point of view, and you want to build a time-aligned data set, you're going to be using Elan and Pratt. As far as I know, I don't know any other software for it, at least. As far as I know, except you are doing a pure NLP task. Because if you are doing a TTX task, that's you are doing a time-aligned over syllable chunks, phoneme to grapheme, or you are doing a kind of building a phoneme to grapheme model, you will rely heavily on Pratt. Yes. But of course, it's not the linguistic annotation that you just go do there. It's a bit NLP driven. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I get. I think it's when we build models that will be needing other tools. I get your point. Yeah, I get
Okay.
it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. Do we have other questions? Okay, yeah, if you are joining for the first time, if you have joined the WhatsApp group, I think I should copy the link again and paste it here. So you can just join the WhatsApp group. There I'm going to share, I'm going to be sharing the link to uh, to the resources, the earlier meetings. Oh, who said I pray I understand this lecture? Do you have any issue? If you have questions, we still have some minutes. We have like 10 minutes to round off because it's an hour class. It's not so cumbersome. It's just a simple, but I try to water it down so that it doesn't get complex at all for all of us to really. Ngozi, is it Ngozi Egonu or something like that? Can you speak up? You said you hope you understand. Is anything the problem? Ngozi, do you want to talk? If you have any further questions, can you just let me know? I will do my best to answer. If I don't know it, I'll get back to you. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know whether it's Ewelu, I don't know, please. Awelu, is it Yoruba? I don't know, please pardon me. Thank you too. So if we don't have any other questions, we don't have time. So we'll be meeting next week, same time, same venue. Thank you so very much for coming around, and we will meet next week. Bye.